it makes me wonder, two-parter. One, you said that you had started off writing in rage. My one question I have for you is when did you ever stop being enraged, or have you been able to, and does that continue to fuel you? And how do you make that useful rather than just impotent rage? And also, how do you maintain hope? I lost quite a bit when I saw 3 million more people voting for Donald Trump the second time around. I was like, oh my God, what was ever the point of who would I write these books for? Who's going to read them and have thoughts? So how do you keep from succumbing to desperation or desperate? Yeah, despair. How do you keep from succumbing to despair? And also, how do you use rage as a tool rather than allowing it to overcome you?
Yeah, those are great questions. I mean, I have to say, I've been on the planet for half a century and I am not as hopeful as I used to be. I think that's just, maybe that's something that comes with age, or maybe it is, a consequence of being a critical thinker in the world. I know my sister, who's also has a PhD, she's a psychologist, and she would say, can't you ever just turn your brain off? Like, can't you just enjoy this TV show? It's fluff. Just sit back and enjoy it. I don't find it enjoyable to turn my brain off. I like having my brain on all the time. It is exhausting, that whole notion of being woke. I mean, we do need to rest, right? We do need to sleep. And fortunately, I am a sound sleeper. I have not lost a lot of sleep over the past few years. But I am angry a lot of the time. I think it helps, again, that I write in a number of different genres for different audiences. So a lot of the rage goes into my poetry. I was looking at, the poems I had written since my last collection of poems, American Phoenix. And yeah, you can just see them getting grimmer and less hopeful. And then I would have to force myself. Mariam Kaba is an activist who said, hope is a discipline. And it's something you have to work at every day. You have to make a commitment to it. And I have a responsibility as someone who works with kids. I'm not going to walk into a classroom and be despondent. I'm not going to walk into a classroom and foam at the mouth. I'm there to embody possibility, and I'm there to model ways of dealing with your emotions. And that is the whole point of A Place Inside of Me. It's called A Poem to Heal the Heart. It's all about honoring your emotions. And I don't have a problem saying to kids, I don't always feel hopeful. I felt kind of blue today. I've lived with depression and anxiety since I was a teenager. I talk about that a lot, mostly with teenagers, not so much with younger kids. But we need to talk about mental health. We've got a crisis in our schools and in our communities because kids are struggling coming out of the pandemic. They were struggling before. I'm a firm believer in talking about ways to transform rage, so that you should allow yourself to be angry. There's no shame in being angry. There's a lot to be angry about, but staying in a place of rage isn't productive, right? Because all you want to do is scream or hit a wall or whatever, or eat a dozen donuts. So how can we turn rage into something helpful? How can we heal ourselves and maybe help someone else as well? And so, what I'm going to be doing in Virginia is a poetry writing exercise, and we're going to talk about how to express our feelings and what are some tools I could give you so that the next time you feel something, you can sit down and write a poem. Because when I first started to write poetry, it was because I was too angry to form coherent sentences. And poetry just required fragments. It was a good way to get anger out on the page really quickly, especially for writing free verse poems. So I think in terms of my rage, it definitely comes out more in my writing for adult audiences, which I think is appropriate, but I don't try to tell kids that I don't get angry because I'm human and everybody gets angry sometimes. And then, when I say to them, what makes you feel hopeful? What makes me feel hopeful? I also spend a lot of time in nature. That's one of the things I love about my neighborhood, is that I'm right close to the lake. And I'm very close to the Garden of the Phoenix in Jackson Park. And there's a meadow there and marshlands. There are so many birds. Like, there are things that I can do to take care of myself, especially my mental health. And being in nature is a big part of that, especially because it's spring and things are growing and blooming. And you're just reminded that there are cycles. And if it feels like we're in a cycle of, things not growing and things stagnating and things rotting, then that's just part of the cycle, because what comes next is growth and life. And so I can look to nature, and I'm pretty good at writing poems where I start off in one position, and but by the end of the poem, I'm in a different position. So if I can't do that myself personally, I think it's okay to acknowledge that to young people. You know what? I had the blues today and I didn't feel like getting out of bed, but I did. And I went for a run, and then I felt better. And then I had ice cream for lunch. Like I don't always get it right. And I think it's okay to tell kids that. But rage is important. Rage is, if you're not feeling something, then we've really already lost, because we have to continue to be outraged by mass shootings. We have to continue to be outraged by book bans. It can't become so commonplace that we just sort of shrug and move on. You have to still be indignant, and we need that outrage.